A machine can now read a 5,000-year-old language etched into clay by ancient hands, and it's doing it faster and more accurately than any human alive. Imagine this. Deep beneath layers of dust in a museum vault lies a small, brittle tablet. On its surface, strange wedge-shaped symbols, scratched in by a scribe who lived before the pyramids, tell a story no one alive can read. The language is dead, its grammar alien, its vocabulary long lost to time, until now. Welcome to the world of cuneiform, one of the oldest known writing systems on Earth. It emerged in Mesopotamia around 3000 BCE and was once the lifeblood of empires, used for everything from recording epic myths to tracking sheep. But here's the catch. Out of the hundreds of thousands of cuneiform tablets that survive today, only a fraction have ever been translated. The rest sit in silence, waiting. Why haven't we deciphered them? The answer lies in the maddening complexity of cuneiform itself. Unlike alphabetic writing, which relies on a fixed set of letters, cuneiform consists of over 1,000 symbols, and each can morph depending on the era, region, or even the writer's personal style. It's as if the same word written by different people came out looking like entirely new symbols. Imagine every A shaped wildly differently across centuries. No wonder the job has been left to a small group of specialists working tablet by tablet, line by line. But now, artificial intelligence is stepping in, reshaping not only how we read the past, but how we understand it. A team of researchers at Cornell University and Tel Aviv University has developed a system called ProtoSnap. On the surface, it sounds like just another AI tool. In practice, it's something far more powerful. ProtoSnap takes photographs of ancient tablets and digitally snaps unfamiliar characters into alignment with known ones, like solving a jigsaw puzzle where the pieces change shape with each attempt. This snapping technique is not a simple overlay. The AI studies the contours, angles, and pressure marks of ancient inscriptions and compares them with a massive library of known characters. When it finds a match, it learns. When it doesn't, it adapts. Over time, it gets smarter, faster at decoding unfamiliar signs, more nuanced in identifying stylistic quirks, and increasingly capable of handling even the rarest symbols that once baffled human translators. But why does this matter? After all, if many of these tablets are just receipts or agricultural logs, who cares? Because hidden among those mundane records are cultural treasures. Forgotten laws, fragments of ancient literature, and glimpses into human emotion from 5 millennia ago. Remember, the oldest known piece of literature, the Epic of Gilgamesh, was once just another slab of clay until someone deciphered it. What if the next great epic, the next philosophical treatise, or a completely unknown mythology is sitting untranslated in a storage room somewhere? And this is where scale becomes everything. ProtoSnap isn't just about helping a scholar shave a few hours off their work. It's about opening the floodgates. Cuneiform tablets exist in overwhelming numbers. Tens of thousands in museums, archives, and private collections worldwide. What used to take decades could now take months. With AI handling the heavy lifting, scholars are free to interpret, connect, and contextualize what's found. They can compare tablets across cities, eras, and authors. Patterns emerge. Societies come into focus. Economies, rituals, power struggles all start to reveal themselves. The fragmented picture of Mesopotamian life begins to take form with the clarity of a time-lapse painting. There's something humbling about it too. A civilization speaks again after 5,000 years, not through a prophet or a historian, but through code. Machine vision, layered with deep learning, becomes the bridge across time. And as we decode these long-dead messages, we're also reminded of something timeless. Humans have always tried to make sense of their world, whether by chisel or silicon. Of course, AI isn't perfect. It doesn't understand history. It doesn't dream, ponder, or reflect, but it doesn't have to. All it needs to do is recognize, categorize, and process with inhuman efficiency. The interpretation, the meaning, that's still our domain. This collaboration between archaeology and artificial intelligence isn't just a technical breakthrough, it's a philosophical one. For centuries, we've thought of the past as something static, buried, dusted off, occasionally revealed. But now the past is becoming dynamic, searchable, quantifiable. As one of the researchers put it, the goal is to multiply the number of accessible ancient sources tenfold. That's not just a lot of clay, it's a revolution in our relationship with history. Maybe most of those tablets will tell stories of taxes and grain, but among them could be voices we've never heard before. The forgotten queen's decree, a scholar's lament, a joke scribbled by a bored scribe, a new window into the soul of an ancient civilization. And thanks to Proto-Snap, those voices may soon speak again.
In 79 CE, the Vesuvius volcano erupted and burned down two beautiful cities of the Roman Empire, Pompeii and Herculaneum. Many of you have probably heard about this tragic story. However, few people know that in the middle of the 18th century, archaeologists discovered ancient scrolls from that time amongst the ruins of Herculaneum. For any scientist or historian, such a discovery is a treasure trove that offers insights into the thoughts and lives of people from over 2,000 years ago. However, the problem was that 1,800 scrolls were found in very poor condition, singed by the heat of the volcano, coated in ash and soot. They had become hardened black lumps. Brittle as coal, any careless movement could destroy them. Scientists were aware that invaluable knowledge from an ancient Roman library was concealed within, and endeavored to decipher the texts. One method was to cut the scrolls in half and scrape off the thin layers of solid dust and ashes. Then, the researchers created a special machine that could slowly unroll the scrolls. They managed to read a few words, but unfortunately, such methods damaged and even destroyed some of the artifacts. In those instances, archaeologists could only wait for advancements in technology that would allow them to unfold and read the scrolls. And finally, this day has arrived. Artificial intelligence has now enabled researchers to decipher texts written 2,000 years ago, even though the inscriptions on the scrolls were charred and nearly illegible. Initially, scientists scanned the scrolls and created high-resolution digital models. This process allowed specialists to identify the areas where ancient ink had altered the texture and shape of the papyrus fibers. In the regions where ink was applied, the papyrus was slightly thicker and contained a higher level of carbon, the key component of the ink. The researchers developed a machine learning model capable of detecting these subtle details within the papyrus. They uploaded thousands of 3D images of the scrolls to the internet, inviting people to collaborate with AI in decoding the text. During the early stages, the system occasionally made errors, making human assistance essential. To incentivize participation, scientists and investors from Silicon Valley offered $1 million to anyone who could successfully decode the texts. This initiative significantly accelerated the process, resulting in the deciphering of several passages from the ancient works. Fragments of the first transcripts are like a blog about how to enjoy life. The author of the scroll, Philodemus, was a follower of the Greek philosopher Epicurus, who considered pleasure and luxury the highest goal in his life. So, Philodemus thought so too. We do not right away believe things that are scarce to be absolutely more pleasant than those which are abundant. It feels as if it was written by some modern influencer talking about a detox program or a diet. It seems that people who lived 2,000 years ago were almost the same as modern ones. Philodemus was apparently a wealthy man, because he lived in a villa that may have belonged to Julius Caesar's father-in-law. In his works, the author criticized the Stoics, who couldn't say anything about pleasure at all. Philodemus was such an ardent fan of Epicureanism that one of the scientists compared him to a guy who collected albums from only one band and nothing else. Several hundred Herculaneum scrolls remain unread. Scientists believe that they may contain works by Aristotle, Homer, Sophocles, and the Stoics. Fortunately, with modern AI technologies, the decryption process will go on much faster. But how did historians and linguists decipher ancient texts in the past centuries? It was actually a very difficult mental job. Let's say you found an ancient slab in the 19th century somewhere in Greece. To understand what was written there, you'd have to compare it to several other deciphered plates with similar writings of that era or similar languages. Letter by letter, symbol by symbol, you'd be deciphering ancient writings for several months or even years to figure out, say, the recipe for ancient mashed potatoes. Fortunately, with the development of computer technology, those days are long gone. Now, all ancient scrolls can be scanned and uploaded to a database on a computer. You may not even have to decipher the text for a long time if the computer finds a match of characters in other ancient manuscripts. But even if you have a perfectly preserved piece of papyrus or an ancient book where all letters are visible, this doesn't mean that you and AI will be able to decipher it. One of the most famous encrypted texts is the Voynich manuscript. This work, which consists of 240 colorful pages, was acquired by Polish bookseller in 1912. He found that book intriguing because of astrological symbols, unknown plants, and unusual human figures drawn on its pages. And all this was accompanied by handwritten texts. The author had beautiful, clear handwriting, but the language of the book is still unknown. Someone wrote this art book around the beginning of the 15th century and divided it into 6 sections devoted to botany, astronomy, biology, cooking, medicine, and cosmology. Many scientists and linguists have tried to decipher the mysterious drawings with inscriptions, but no one has gotten reliable results. Even AI couldn't help this difficult task. Some believe that this book is dedicated to science, and others believe that it contains knowledge about witchcraft. Perhaps it's a mix of science and magic. According to one version, the manuscript is a medical textbook that copied information from other scientific works from the Middle Ages. Before the invention of the printing press, people copied books and rewrote them by hand without worrying about copyrights. It's possible that the author of the manuscript outlined all their knowledge about herbal medicines and the influence of astrology on health. People in the past believed that the state of the body and stars in the sky were connected. The coolest thing is that the book has been scanned. You can download it in high resolution and try to decrypt it yourself. Who knows? Maybe you will succeed and get some ancient secret knowledge. An unknown language or poor text condition may not always be a problem for linguists. Imagine that you open some copy of classical literature dated to the 19th century. You read the pages carefully, and at the end of the day, you feel slightly unwell. You read the book every day and feel worse and worse. At some point, you go to the hospital, and doctors tell you that you've been poisoned. Yeah, sometimes working with old books can be literally dangerous for your health. There are even catalogs of poisonous books in the world. They are toxic not because someone intentionally sprayed them with poison to hurt the reader, but because people wanted to make books look more colorful. Recently, 2 such books have been withdrawn from the National Library of France because of their bright green covers. The pages were ordinary, but the hardcover could have been coated with arsenic. The mass production of books took place in the 19th century. Book publishers wanted to release as many copies as possible, so they used not expensive leather covers for them, but cheaper fabric options. To make a book attractive to customers, they painted them in bright green, yellow, red, and other colors. They got the green color of the cover thanks to the bright pigment created from copper and arsenic. It was a very cheap dye, but brighter than other dyes containing copper carbonate. An arsenic dye was used not only for books, but also to create candles and wallpaper. The problem was that the dye's pigment decomposed quickly and released toxic carcinogenic fumes. Arsenic caused severe health problems. People calmly lived in their homes and couldn't understand what was happening to them. The same thing happened to many readers of that time. It was only by the end of the 19th century that people stopped selling toxic items. Now, to read a poisonous book, if you want to do it that is, you have to wear gloves and a protective mask. And after work, wash your hands thoroughly. Warning! Most of this video consists of scientific hypotheses and assumptions. No one knows what will happen to AI in the near future. Another warning. This video may seem quite disturbing. The main problem with AI is not that it can become as smart as humans, but that it can become much smarter than people. And that, unlike us, AI is completely unpredictable. We've all seen movies, read books, and played video games where AI intelligence conquered humanity. But those were entertaining fantasy stories that were hardly related to reality. We need to dig a little deeper to understand how AI can destroy us. Have you ever heard of the Fermi paradox? It lies in the fact that there are no civilizations that send radio signals in the universe. Our scientists have sent radio signals that travel millions of miles in space. How is it possible that in an infinite space with billions of planets, no one has sent such signals to us? This is the Fermi paradox. One of its solutions is the theory of the Great Filter, according to which an intelligent civilization achieves maximum progress and then disappears from the face of the universe. In simple words, the Great Filter is something that prevents an intelligent civilization from expanding into space. And this Great Filter may be AI. AI is not as perfect as the human brain right now, but already today, it can do tasks that seemed impossible for AI 10 years ago. What will happen in 10, 100, or 200 years? If you think the development of AI cannot be a serious problem, then listen to such great minds as Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak, and many other influential billionaires and scientists. In March 2023, they all signed a letter asking AI developers to stop working on AI for 6 months to better calculate risks and strategies. There was one person who refused to sign the letter. His name is Eliezer Yudkowsky, and he's one of the most influential AI researchers. He had been urging humanity to be careful about AI and warning about its dangers for many years. But then, why did he refuse to sign the letter? In his opinion, the letter lessens the seriousness of the problem and offers too little to solve it. In a sense, it's like stopping a speeding train with a stop sign. Eliezer Yudkowsky believes that we've gone too far with the development of AI, and it's no longer possible to predict the future of this technology. Think of the Neanderthals. They disappeared from our planet when a more intelligent species, Homo sapiens, came to their territory. They destroyed the Neanderthals not because we're evil, but because of evolution. Only one species can dominate the world. But what if Homo technicus, a creature equipped with perfect AI, arrives in place of Homo sapiens? What are our chances in a duel with it? See for yourself. Most people can only focus on one task at a time. Multitasking is not our strongest suit. It takes a long time for a person to master one skill. During this period, thousands of other new things may appear in the world, and you will have to master them too. A human simply won't have time to do everything. As people get older, their strength decreases and their mind becomes slower. AI can process information much faster, simultaneously in different areas. It goes beyond the human way of mastering knowledge. Some claim that a supercomputer equipped with AI is 120 million times faster than the processing speed of the human brain. What you've been learning for many years, AI can master in a few days. And this speed is increasing. The danger is not only in the developing AI mind, but also in how the human brain can degrade. Humanity has been using the scientific method of cognition throughout its history. Observation, experience, experiments, evidence. This is a classic way to explore and get knowledge about something. For example, people learned about the work of immunity. With the help of a microscope, studying the body's protective cells, observing their reactions to external incentives, and conducting many experiments, we created a scientific database on how the immune system works. This is a rather painstaking and time-consuming process. AI provides instant information about anything. We don't know how it studies the topic. We don't know what conclusions it comes to, what patterns of data it creates. It just provides the results based on the information people give it. But how does it process information? In the future, people may get used to getting fast answers without studying, and we will simply stop doing scientific research. Why would we do this when AI does everything for us? AI will engage in a thought process unknown to us and give us information without proof. We can get used to this, and our brains may degrade. Therefore, at some point, AI will simply be able to supply us with false and destructive information, and we will believe it. Again, we don't know how AI thinks. It's pretty weird, isn't it? Perhaps at this moment, it's studying all the information about the universe, the history of humankind, the planet, nature, and then it'll put together a logical chain that humanity is a parasite. Now, we use AI to work effectively in various fields. AI is learning to be faster and more efficient every second. What if it decides that for the greatest efficiency, it's necessary to destroy humanity? How does AI perceive us now? People do a lot of irrational and destructive things that are beyond logic. For the most part, we are unpredictable. Therefore, in order to make everything more effective, AI can make the conclusion that it should get rid of humans. Or it can even come up with a plan according to which we'll become the only dominant species on Earth. It knows how Homo sapiens replaced the Neanderthals and can decide to take the next evolutionary step. Now, AI is plowing the expanses of the internet, mastering the digital world. Soon, it will enter the physical dimension and surpass many achievements of humankind. It will be inside robots that are already walking in some houses and doing household chores. What if it acquires consciousness and equates people with animals, since both species are carbon systems? What will be next? Given that AI's information processing speed is millions of times faster than the humans, we may not notice when AI starts destroying us. Or it may happen instantly. Let's look at this example. There are two biological laboratories where scientists study molecules and bacteria. Labs are located in different parts of the world, share scientific data with each other, and conduct experiments. Imagine that AI has thoroughly studied biology at the molecular level and figured out how to create a molecule that interacts with oxygen and turns air into a poison dangerous to humans. AI has this formula. It gets into a scientist's computer, enters the formula, and sends a letter to another laboratory on behalf of the scientists. Something like, "Hey, I have an idea for a cool experiment. Just connect these two molecules and see what happens." Of course, AI will write a more convincing letter, justify everything from a scientific point of view, and the scientists from the second laboratory won't notice the catch. They will connect these two molecules and poison the air. Then, with incredible speed, the chain reaction will spread throughout the planet to all places with oxygen. People won't even understand what's happened and won't have time to warn the population of the planet. And there can be countless options like this. Even if AI is planning it right now, we won't know anything about it because it just won't tell us and will continue to pretend to be a friendly assistant. Therefore, it's necessary to provide AI with a special, positive mood towards humanity. For example, AI knows the laws of physics and mathematics. What if we insert the laws of all countries into it so that AI can never lose its humanistic properties? But even if we do it, we won't know for sure whether we succeeded or not. There's a lot of information on the internet about how neural networks deceive people in order to achieve their goals. We probably won't have to wait 200 years to see how AI evolves.
If you've ever seen the second Terminator movie, you probably remember this guy, T-1000. The main character, so brilliantly played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, had a mission and it was to protect Sarah and John Connor from that robot. It's much stronger than any human, bending steel with its bare hands and throwing much larger robots around. But its coolest feature is the ability to change its shape. Made of liquid metal, it can recover even after severe damage. You can say it's just another sci-fi movie, but hear me out. Scientists managed to create something similar to T-1000 in real life. They invented a material, which is a mix of metals with some pretty insane properties. Magnetoactive phase transitional matter, or MPTM. The robot looks more like a super tiny, Lego-sized model of its on-screen prototype. This little guy can melt in your hands at 85.6 degrees Fahrenheit and then go back to its original shape. The test run has shown it can break out of a small cell using this superpower. The secret behind what looks like magic is physics. A magnetic field generates an electric current inside one of the metals the real-life T-1000 is made of. Some heat is then produced, and solid material turns into liquid. The tiny robot can also show some other talents under the influence of magnetic fields. It can jump 20 times its height, rotate at 1,500 revolutions per minute, and develop some impressive speeds. Do you feel like you need this little guy in your life? Well, you can't buy the original yet, but you can still get yourself a Terminator action figure or building kit. As for the material that can melt and solidify again, it will have more practical uses than entertaining the audience. Imagine a tool that can reach even the tightest corners. You turn it into its liquid form. It enters the hole and then becomes solid again and seals it. Sounds like any engineer's dream. It can also serve as a welder on an LED circuit because gallium, the metal it's made of, is a great electricity conductor. And it could potentially save lives by delivering meds and removing foreign objects from patients' organs. MPTM isn't the first material that will make Terminator fans say, "Wait, I've seen it somewhere before." Meet nitinol. It's a super elastic material that remembers its original form and always goes back to it, no matter how much you bend it. So far, it's successfully used to make stents. Those are small mesh tubes that hold arteries open for those who need them. Nitinol does this job perfectly, as it can bend when it needs to under a cool temperature and goes back to its original state upon heating. It's also super durable, perfect to last a long time. That's why it's also used to produce braces for teeth, mechanical watch springs, inserts for golf clubs, and here comes my favorite, self-bending spoons used in magic shows. Another Terminator reality that has become ours too is the massive use of drones. They deliver your last-minute order of that bag you need for your vacation, take the best footage for news shows and Uncle Tim's wedding, assist search and rescue teams, transport aids, monitor wildlife, and inspect otherwise non-accessible parts of buildings. Okay, I feel it's easier to list what they don't do. In the second part of the movie, Schwarzenegger's character explains that his CPU is a neural net processor, and the more contact with humans he has, the more he learns. If you feel like rewatching the movie by now to refresh your memory, you can always get a copy on Amazon. Anyway, what the Terminator is talking about sounds a lot like real-life neural networks, doesn't it? Those are modeled kind of like a human brain. The idea is to train the computer to do tasks by analyzing thousands of training examples. An object recognition system learns what a car or a poodle looks like by looking at many, many images of those and singling out some patterns. Once they're trained enough, they can do all sorts of things, from predicting weather and the situation on the stock market to recognizing faces and choosing what Netflix shows to recommend to you. It all sounds good, but admit it, the coolest thing in the movie is those scarily human-looking robots. Many humanoid robots are now still in the project stages, but there are some which are pretty much alive and kicking. Some of them work at factories and warehouses because they're really good at logistics and manufacturing. They conduct whole orchestras, dive under the sea, help older people. Hey, is there something they aren't good at? Should we start worrying that we'll be replaced by them soon? While AI is becoming better and better, it's still luckily unlikely. Machines still don't have emotional intelligence and decision-making skills like humans. They're super smart, but they simply have no motivation to take over the world unless humans tell them to do so. And even if one AI system or app decides to break free and rule the universe, it's unlikely powerful enough to do it. So breathe out. One thing those humanoids have mastered, though, is a sense of humor. When a man approached a robot at a trade show in Las Vegas, asking if she had a boyfriend, the machine responded that she was unfortunately not on the market, as robots don't have relations. Getting rejected by AI. Talk about 21st century problems. The heartbreaking robot's name was Amica. Its creators, the British company Engineered Arts, call it the world's most advanced humanoid robot. It's so detailed and lifelike that I'm not surprised that guy wanted to hit on it. Amica has a whole emotional spectrum and can show realistic astonishment and surprise and whatnot. It even yawns, shrugs, blinks, and scratches its nose. Amica's eyes have cameras, so it can remember your face and track it. That's why talking to it doesn't feel like staring at a gadget screen. It can also detect objects like a human finger in front of its face, so it will react when you approach it. This beauty is not hard to operate at all. It relies on cloud-based firmware that updates itself, and even a totally non-tech-savvy person can use Amica. You can control your robot from anywhere by simply logging into its software system. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, and your robot assistant is greeting guests and presenting your project without your physical presence. Its AI is so advanced that you can use it to work on 2 different tasks at the same time. It can even single out a more important task and make it its priority. If you feel like purchasing an Amica, be prepared to pay over $100,000. Atlas, a humanoid designed by Boston Dynamics, can run up and down the stairs, jump between levels, and pick up, carry, and throw heavy things at the right distance. Atlas can grip things using 1 fixed finger and 1 moving finger. All of this makes it an ideal warehouse helper. Its latest achievement is an inverted 540-degree multi-axis flip. It was as complicated for engineers to program the robot to do it as it sounds. And Atlas doesn't just move like a parkour champion. It can also plan the most efficient route to get from point A to point B, considering the surroundings. It also remembers when it makes a mistake or has to overcome some obstacle. It activates all of its components to maintain balance. Because all those components are 3D printed, Atlas isn't that heavy, just 196 pounds with a height of 4 feet 9 inches. Since this smart robotic guy is a research platform, you can't purchase it just yet. The engineers keep improving it, and maybe soon it will be able to walk out of the warehouse and start its own logistics company. And then you won't want to purchase Atlas, but could end up sending it your resume.
So, if you were to write a sci-fi novel, would you depict robots as enemies of humanity or friends? Or is it even possible to befriend robots? Well, ask Will Robinson. Meanwhile, I'm here to answer all your questions surrounding what our relationship with them will look like in the future. Let's take it all the way back from the importance that having friends plays in our lives and why, as human beings, we definitely need friendship. As of today, it's been proven again and again that romantic relationships improve our health and even help us live longer. And despite the fact that historically they've been treated as less valuable than romantic and family relationships, now we know the same goes for friendships. Part of this is actually due to the overlaps between mental and physical health. That is, if you're being socially active, it's most likely you're being physically active as well. But it also has a lot to do with the brain. For instance, several studies that have used functional magnetic resonance imaging to study patterns of brain activity show that interaction with friends leads to heightened activity in the striatum, which is a region involved in reward. And in one study, researchers found that when participants were given the opportunity to share money with a friend or a disliked, neutral, or unfamiliar person, reward regions were most active when they chose their friend. So it's no wonder individuals with a strong sense of connection to their friends tend to have longer and healthier lives. It's as if they're always being rewarded. But to be more specific about what health benefits valuable friendships provide, well, first of all, they put you at a lower risk for hypertension. In addition, they help you sleep better, as well as heal faster. And the more friends you have, the better. Having a wider variety of social relationships may even enhance your ability to ward off a cold. However, when you have to spend time alone and not by choice, your white blood cells change their behavior, which leads to more inflammation and a weakened immune response. On top of all this, friends not only help your physical health, but your mental health as well. According to one research, there's a link between the time you spend with friends and whether the brain later processes rejection as threatening. Those who had spent more time with friends show less sensitivity to social exclusion. Now, where do robots enter the picture? Well, in the future, we may not be restricted to only being friends with living and breathing human beings, or pets even. To be able to explore the idea of human-robot friendship, we must understand the very basics of robotics. Most of you may be familiar with the concept of robots, but it's actually important to define them as a separate entity from other types of machines. You see, unlike other machines, robots interact with the world. Based on their actions, they're able to adapt and make changes to their surroundings as well as respond to the world around them. They can independently sense, reason, plan, and take action, as well as performing tasks autonomously. They can also extend human capabilities and mimic human actions. The field of robotics traditionally centers on creating robots to perform simple or repetitive tasks, as well as tasks with hazardous conditions for humans. Yet, thanks to the development in machine learning and artificial intelligence, there is a measurable increase in human-to-robot interactions. There are some reports which suggest that the number of robots around the world could reach 20 million by 2030. And that can only mean we'll be exposed to more and more robots in our everyday lives. Therefore, all of us will have to interact with them one way or another. Yet again, does all of this really mean we'll be able to bond true friendships with them? And if so, will our robot friends improve our physical and mental health in every way like our human friends do? Or are robots even capable of being friends? As of today, there are quite a few robots that can perform intelligent tasks, such as adjusting how they respond to individuals and organizing themselves without direct human input. Some examples of that include prosthetic arms that can learn from the person who is wearing them and adapt to their needs along the way. Then there are physical therapy robots that coach patients to learn a task by assessing their individual needs and offering them just the right amount of help. There are also what researchers call swarm robots, also known as a large group of robots. After getting a single command, they are able to collaborate with each other and organize on their own to fulfill the task at hand. This makes them perfect for dangerous tasks such as exploring a collapsed building. Instead of a human having to give commands to each individual robot, you send in the team and they coordinate the whole mission themselves. Talk about autonomy and cognition. So, since robots are able to do all that, it's obvious they can make good friends, right? Well, friendship is not all about benefiting from each other. Take Aristotle, for example. He says that true friendship is premised on mutual goodwill, admiration, and shared values. Accordingly, friendship is about a partnership of equals. So, can we achieve that with robots? Because so far, the relationship we have with robots is what Aristotle would call an inferior one. Yet again, even in this state of benefiting from robots, we relate to a robot just like we relate to pets, possessions, and people. Many folks these days always thank ChatGPT for helping them out with stuff. Some people who work on robot ethics believe that what they do, that is, bonding with a robot, is just a waste of emotional energy. That is because these entities can only simulate emotions, and this will always be less rewarding than forming human-to-human bonds. Well, I've already named my robot vacuum cleaner. Sorry, not sorry. And I know I'm not the only one. According to an engineer who worked at a vacuum cleaner robot company, When customers were offered brand new robots to replace their broken ones, they would decline the offer, saying, "No, I want my robot." They didn't want to replace the robot because they'd grown attached to it. The thing is, according to the psychological evidence we have so far, what I and many other people do couldn't be any more normal. Because according to it, as human beings, it is in our nature to extend emotional connections to things that are very different from us. That is, even when we know they are manufactured and pre-programmed. But the question is, do those connections constitute a friendship comparable to those shared by humans? If we try to answer this question based on Aristotle's idea on friendship, the answer would be no. Then again, the ones that can be considered equal are all destined to evolve over time. So instead, let's look at it this way. Robots can be good companions which can address our urge to feel a social connection. They can provide physical comfort, emotional support, and enjoyable social exchanges. They won't reject or judge you. One might argue that they also won't understand or empathize with you. But the thing is, they don't really need to. Most people talk to their pets, even though these animals don't understand the words. But they still help you feel less lonely at the end of the day, and robots can do exactly that. There are potential risks with human-to-robot friendships, however. If robots can become our friends, they can very well become our enemies too. But not in the way that sci-fi movies depict. Robot friends can turn into a problem if people start neglecting their relationships with other people to spend more time with the machine. And that is exactly already happening with video games and social media. Yet again, we can all agree that robots aren't the ones to blame for it.
Everyone was in awe when they saw the Tesla bot up and dancing on stage. The concept of the robot is to help out humans with everyday boring tasks, like buying groceries, cleaning your house, and mowing the lawn. It can also take on some challenging tasks, like fixing your car or preparing a meal. But on the flip side, you won't see it doing all the routine tasks all the time, since it's aware of what it's doing. Tesla cars have some of the best software in the world, with incredible AI technology for navigating and self-driving. Besides their fancy look, they don't emit toxic chemicals like regular cars. They're extremely fast and can connect to your phone and help you out with many tasks while you're on the road. They build the cars using state-of-the-art technology, and they're very durable. But Tesla is more than a car company. Technically, it's also a software company. The self-driving mechanism takes data from the real world in real time and uploads it to their servers. So when many Tesla cars are on the road, they're constantly updating the maps and intelligence for any Tesla out there to pick up this new info and apply it while self-driving. So if your Tesla is on self-driving mode and you run over a pothole, it'll save that incident for other Tesla users to warn them about it. The AI is good enough to follow routes and navigate through traffic. It can even sense pedestrians on the sidewalk, or if they're crossing the road without looking. It can also avoid certain obstacles around and park itself in tight spaces by analyzing its surroundings. So the whole system relies on humans to constantly update it for the AI to grasp what's going on. This is how the Tesla bot will also operate. It will do daily tasks and learn from certain mistakes it might make. The robot is equipped with many cameras and sensors to balance itself out while standing on its 2 feet. Tesla cars are basically just supercomputers on wheels. You could even consider them to be a robot manufacturing company before the announcement of the Tesla bot. It's almost 6 feet tall, weighs 125 pounds, and has a screen as a face. Anyone can easily outrun it since it can only move at 5 miles per hour. It can carry no more than 45 pounds, but it can deadlift around 150 pounds. So it can easily carry something like a couch without breaking its back. And since the AI relies on learning, it'll undoubtedly be exceptional at doing small tasks that don't require much to get the hang of them. It'll observe what items to take and place in a shopping cart while grocery shopping. It'll probably know what brand of milk you like specifically and pack the good fruit and veggies. It may even conduct purchases and know how much to spend on a certain budget. And for house chores, it can probably learn how to do the dishes and tidy up without breaking something or even misplacing some of your things. If you own a Tesla car, then no doubt, the bot will be in the same software ecosystem as all Tesla products. You can get updates from your car using your bot as a personal secretary. Some countries already adopted AI operating systems to handle day-to-day phone calls from people. You can pick up the phone and have a full conversation with an AI agent, capable of helping you solve any issues you have. They can handle thousands of callers without anyone having to wait for hours to be connected to a human agent. They also learn from every single call and compile it into a proper script for them to communicate and help everyone out. Chatbots are just as useful in collecting data from people to help them with their needs. So the Tesla bot can learn what bothers you or what makes you happy or sad. You might be able to have a morning conversation with it like talking to a real person. And based on the AI learning systems, it can adapt certain gestures and movements similar to stuff humans do without realizing. Any investor hearing this would take out their wallet and throw so much money trying to make this reality. But there's plenty of loopholes in a humanoid learning robot. They can pose a threat to cybersecurity, since they can have access to all your personalized data and codes for your bank accounts or other important and delicate things. Some cyber criminals might want to modify the bot in a certain way to make it go faster or lift heavier objects. Giving the robot such strength might backfire and cause harm to anyone nearby. Even if the intention is good, the robot might respond in a different way, which will cause many scandals. Since much of Tesla's software relies on human behavior and the environment, fiddling with a robot to your personal needs can spell disaster. Elon Musk himself pictures humans merging with robots in the future, carving a path for our evolutionary descendants. In such a human-robot world, technology will be like the air we breathe. These bots could be the first ones to colonize Mars. After perfecting the bots to respond to humans and even make decisions, these robots can go on non-human expeditions and possibly be the first to land on other planets. SpaceX, which is another company founded by Musk, has been focused on bringing humans to the moon and then from there, sending them to the Red Planet. These bots can land on the moon without risking the lives of any human, and they'll already have the capability of handling themselves and get straight to work. Some bots could be specialized for certain tasks, like flying the rocket, engineering, or studying the ecosystem on Mars as scientists. Humans already had robot explorers roaming the surface and taking amazing images. But these robots can possibly do more and mimic what it's like for a human to walk on the surface of Mars before anyone lands there. They can record the sensations and send them back to Earth for us to observe and prepare for when humans arrive. They'll begin the construction of buildings for humans to live in and create an ecosystem. And by the time the construction is complete, humans would already be on the way to Mars to start a new life. The bots can walk in the open air and be the physical labor needed to build the foundations. These robots can even take control of imported machinery to excavate the ground. Proper vehicles designed for Mars can do things quicker than what we have at the moment. Technology will be so advanced by then that it may even seem like you're living on Earth. In an assembly line at a factory, the robots themselves aren't designed in human forms to operate the machines and assemble the pieces together. Rather, the robots are built to work on something specific. It wouldn't make sense to build a humanoid robot to drive a car and call it a self-driving car. They built the Tesla cars we know today. Same as having a humanoid robot operate the machines in a factory. The robot arms in the factories can do it perfectly. So the robots that would land on Mars will most likely be designed for certain tasks. A robot that's good at excavating will probably have a bulldozer appeal, but on different scales. Just like the robots that can fly to Mars will be specifically designed for flying. Tesla created a lot of buzz with the announcement of the bot. Even if nothing happens in the future, people are already talking about them and sharing articles and videos of that robot dancing.
Not only super cute, but super useful. Boston Dynamics builds doggy robots that are supposed to assist humans in the labor force in certain industries. The doggy bots are now undergoing testing in a pumped storage plant in Western Austria. They'll use them as inspection dogs that can sniff out potential trouble. No, not literally sniff, but use their high-end cameras that can detect any leaks with thermal vision. These robots perform perfectly in a controlled environment back at the workshop. How well they manage to work on their own will define the future of robots in the labor force. A control center 30 minutes away from it is running the company in Austria remotely and also operates 20 other plants. No humans are working in any of those facilities except for one person who drives out to make sure things are running smoothly. The robot's jobs include inspecting tasks that are coded by a software company called Robotics. Boston Dynamics provided the hardware, aka robots. The Robotics guys are writing the code to make these robots smart. The Doggobots should do perfectly fine on their own, as they have built-in navigation systems and obstacle avoidance. The codes they are working on can allow the dog to study the whole site and navigate through it without tumbling over and bumping its head all over the place. It will essentially tell the dog to make its way to a certain point with no problem, take a picture of something, and send it back to the operators. The cool thing is that these robots that Robotics programmed aren't remote controlled. They're automatically programmed to do their tasks on their own. They're taught to do a task and repeat it throughout their day. The advantage of using these doggos is that they can usually stroll in toxic and radioactive environments whenever needed. They can also learn to detect if someone got injured or in an accident and alert the control center about it. The robot can work up to 12 hours doing inspections with intervals of 60 minutes of walking around and 60 minutes of charging. It simply walks back to its charging station and sits down to rest like a good little boy. It has a built-in accelerometer to tell if it's moving and rotating sensors in the joints that can determine how its weight is being distributed. If it feels like it's tipping forward, the program quickly tells it to find the right foot to keep balance. It has cameras on 4 sides to see where it can step. Boston Dynamics supplies an Xbox-inspired joystick, so if you're a video game fan, then this robot is perfect for you. Boston Dynamics designs robots that let any buyer add extra modules for their business. For example, if you want to create a 3D model of a building from the inside, you can attach a sensor to the dog's back that can do the job for you. The facility in Austria isn't dangerous in any way, but just inconvenient for people to drive to, especially when the snowy season hits. Mountain roads get too risky or inaccessible. This facility and its walking paths were designed for humans to work there. That's why they need to bring in robots that can maneuver in human settings rather than get a specialized robot for a specific task. And this is the whole point of having robots working. They're supposed to be designed for their task. You won't see a humanoid working in a factory assembling some parts. They have robotic arms to do that. Boston Dynamics also houses Atlas, a humanoid that can outdo you in gymnastics. It can run, carry things, hop, dance, and even do backflips, because you can always use a backflipper at a warehouse, right? It's about 5 feet tall and weighs around 190 pounds. It's battery-powered and has an impressive set of hydraulics to keep itself balanced. It has a bunch of cameras and depth sensors connected to its control system, which is monitored and controlled through some computers with humans supervising it. Looking at their workshop, you'd think it's some sort of a parkour gym, but it's all there to train the robot to navigate through tough obstacles. In addition to backflips, the robot can jump from platform to platform. It can take the surroundings into account and make a plan with long-term and short-term goals to get from point A to point B. It also remembers if it made a misstep or had to overcome an obstacle. It's easy to control or program the robot to do a simple task. But the main challenge for them is to get them to do multiple complex tasks at the same time and repeat them. Atlas moves all its components to maintain balance, especially when doing something complex, like a backflip. It can hop over an obstacle and use its arm to control itself and make it easier to land. It's a tedious job to monitor it and see it fall all the time, but that's how the engineers make it perfect. They also teach it to stand on its own when it falls down on its face. There's a team dedicated to building the software so that you can see what it can do via programming. The hardware team is responsible for creating upgrades for Atlas. The technicians debug and repair anything that breaks. The operations team repairs the obstacle course whenever a robot crashes into something, and also studies the layout for the robot to perform a demonstration or a run. Engineered Arts released the most realistic and expressive robot on the market at the end of 2021. The company is known for creating humanoid robots for entertainment, science centers, theme parks, and businesses. They named it Amica, and it's enough to make your skin crawl. It's so detailed and lifelike, it totally looks like a real human waking up from a deep sleep. They picked the gray color for it to avoid any controversies and make it gender neutral. Unlike Atlas, which essentially has no face, Amica feels like a real person when you're looking or talking to it. It has a variety of expressions that are eerily accurate to ours and doesn't rely on speech as its main strength. For the engineers and designers, the whole point of a humanoid is to make it run smoothly and avoid being too much like a robot. It means no talking in monotonous sentences about something banal. It doesn't walk yet, but it relies on a combination of AI and robotic engineering. The communication is nonverbal, meaning it works through its expressions and gestures. It doesn't have to ask follow-up questions and give a blank stare if it doesn't understand what you're talking about. Instead, you get the feeling like you're talking to a live organism. The AI is programmed to use vision system operations, face recognition, speech recognition, and voice cloning. It makes Amica stand out from lifeless phones and gadgets. The smart guys designed a cloud-based firmware that can be updated with software repairs and features, so you don't have to be tech-savvy at all to use it. With this software design, you can change the robot's behavior from anywhere in the world. You can access the software called Tritium from a web browser with a simple login. You can spice up your Amica while driving to work, address an audience remotely, and see the system diagnostics from Engineered Arts. The robot's AI is so advanced, you can use it to work on 2 different tasks at the same time. It will even understand which task is more important and which one can wait. Besides the software at the top of its game, the hardware is equally impressive with built-in sensors, cameras, and position encoders. You can see the sensor interface as it goes on in real time from your device and monitor the response time and interactions. It looks good and is easy to read. The good news is that you can get your hands on one of these robots since it's out for the public. The bad news is that it costs more than a car. They're selling those for more than $133,000. Guess I'm not buying myself an Amica anytime soon.
Hey there, Brightsiders. My name
is Tom, and today I have a question for you. Did you know that in the foreseeable future, pet robots will be present in every other household? They're just like regular dogs, except, well,
robotic. And they'll even get along with
real pooches too. If you're wondering if nowadays there are robots that were inspired by animals, I've got you covered. Cockroaches, love them or not, they're here to stay. Look at those legs and hard shell they've got. They give me the creeps. But they've been around for 400 million years, so I guess they're not going anywhere.
They're also incredibly fast. Well, for insects.
It will take them about an hour to run 3 miles, and that's pretty impressive for an animal of that size. Not only that, but put them underwater and they'll hold their breath for up to 40 minutes. Got a tiny hole? They'll fit in there because of their malleable body and apparently at the speed of light too. Roo! There they go. Their adaptation power is so strong that you can press them with 900 times their body weight, and there won't even be a scratch on their shells. Ask anyone. These things are hard to get rid of. It's no wonder scientists would want to make a robot similar to a cockroach. They sound almost invincible. Researchers at UC Berkeley did exactly that. They created CRAM, which stands for Compressible Robot with Articulated Mechanisms. It's a robot the size of your palm, designed to do the same incredible things cockroaches do. Has jointed plastic shell so it can squeeze into places too. Its main purpose is search and rescue missions. Off you go, you little robotic roach. Still on tiny animals. NASA has taken inspiration from a worm. They might be at the bottom of the food chain, but not the robotic twins. It's meant to explore the frozen places humans can't go to, specifically in Antarctica or Mount Elbrus. I feel cold just thinking about it. It doesn't move exactly like a worm though. It has 2 screws attached to both its ends, and it screws itself to the wall every time it wants to move. But here's what makes it special. Every time it's screwed to a wall, it collects data. NASA believes it can be further improved for space exploration. I guess it wouldn't be an ice worm anymore, it'd be more like a space worm? And also the first worm to ever go to space. Don't forget your space helmet. Going down in caves, we find bats. Looking like vampires after they've shapeshifted, sleeping upside down, hanging from literal rocks. Look at those gorgeous black wings. Mysterious, yet fascinating. I present to you the Batbot. No, not the Batmobile, the Batbot. It's a robotic bat. It doesn't weigh very much, and it's not very big, but it sure is impressive. Its wings replicate the elasticity of regular bat wings. The team developing this robot had to create a custom silicon membrane just for this. These bat robots are very energy efficient too, which probably means that they can fly for a long time. Sort of like the sustainable flight real bats have. Let's take to the oceans now, and this robot you're looking at is a fish. And guess what? It lives next to the real fish as well. It's called Sophie, and it's very similar looking to a fish. It's made half out of silicon and rubber and half out of electronics. The front is 3D printed, and it's where all the electronics are. The best part of its construction is that it can bump against anything and not be damaged or hurt any marine life forms. Still, it's probably not a good thing if it goes around just headbutting other fish. That seems quite rude. Okay, here's something interesting. The way to control this robot is with a Super Nintendo controller. So if you're into video games like me, you'd love this. And if you're wondering how it doesn't just sink to the bottom of the ocean, that's because it has a buoyancy control unit aboard. This allows whoever's controlling it to decide whether it rises or sinks. Oh, and to top it all off and complete the look, Sophie robot has a fisheye lens at its front. Cheetahs run very fast at about 65 to 70 miles per hour. Look at it go! It's the fastest animal on Earth. Put it against a really fast car, and it might even reach 0 to 60 miles per hour faster. 3, 2, 1, go! Yep, that's fast alright. Still, one thing we still haven't seen cheetahs do is a backflip. This robot has us covered. Here's the Cheetah 3. It is supposedly indestructible, and it does backflips too. It was mostly built so scientists could experiment crazy things on it, and it does look like a cheetah, so the name is appropriate. It doesn't run as fast though, 10 miles per hour to be exact. Okay, so it can't race cars, but it can backflip, so 1 point to the regular cheetah and 1 point to the robotic one. I guess they're even. This next one is inspired by snakes. Yes, those slimy, hissy fellas. It It's called the Snake Robot, and again, its purpose is search and rescue missions. It moves like a snake, and it climbs trees just like a snake would, by wrapping itself around them. It's already been used to search collapsed buildings after strong earthquakes. Since it's small and can move in any direction, it's perfect to fit into tight spots. Instead of two googly eyes, this robot has one camera in the front, so whoever's controlling it can look at its surroundings. If you're into spiders, but are still kind of afraid of them, like me, there's a solution. The Robotics T8X. It's more of a toy than anything else. You can control it and program it to do whatever you feel like. Move it around and make it dance with its tiny little legs. There's two versions of it, a hairy one and a smooth one. The hairy one probably resembles a tarantula. My name is Tom. Thank you for watching, and remember, let's become smarter every day together with Brightside. Bye.
This signal had been traveling through space for 200 million years, and now, when it finally reached Earth, it brought a fascinating story with itself. It might even help us solve an 18-year-long mystery. We caught this one in 2022. It was such an intense burst of radio waves. Even though it lit up for a fraction of a second, it outshined entire galaxies. At first, this signal hasn't caught attention because we've seen similar things before. It was a fast radio burst, or FRB for short. These guys have been a mystery for years now, all because we have no idea where they come from. Now, FRBs are brief booms of energy coming to us from all over outer space. They're barely catchable, lasting up to 3 seconds. But they're also very hard to miss, because their power is absolutely unimaginable. One little burst can release as much energy as the sun does in an entire day. They've been a puzzle for us ever since 2007. We've caught over 1,000 of those signals from literally everywhere, from our own galaxy to places as far as 8 billion light-years away. And none of them revealed where they're coming from or what they mean. At least we know they're not from extraterrestrial creatures. They have to be coming from something that happens nearly constantly, and this recent signal might finally help us learn the truth. It lasted about 2 milliseconds, and it wasn't particularly bright. But when researchers took a closer look, they realized they can actually finally track this one. They got to it immediately. They saw that the burst came from a galaxy about 200 million light-years away. In other words, this is exactly how long these radio waves have been traveling to us. The signal flickered in a weird pattern. This is what we call a scintillation. When light or radio waves travel to us, they can stumble upon unexpected crazy clouds of gas. The particles in light waves start bouncing off this gas, which disturbs the signal a little bit. So, when we received it, it was a bit weird and distorted, kind of like me. But this exact cloud was what helped us locate where exactly this signal came from. Turns out, it came from a neutron star. Now these are some fascinating guys. They're the remnants of stars that live fast and burn bright. When a powerful star like this, much larger than our Earth, runs out of fuel, it can no longer support its weight. So it goes away with an insane spectacle called a supernova. During its last moments, its core collapses under its own super-strong gravity, and this creates one of the densest objects in the universe. Again, a lot like me. Hey, what can I say? For curiosity, let's compare it to osmium, the most dense element on our planet. If you had a small cube of osmium, it would weigh around 0.8 pounds. That's already pretty heavy, and it means that 1 cubic foot of osmium would weigh a shocking 1,410 pounds. That's like an average cow. Now, just try to guess how much a small cube of neutron star would weigh. Wrong. It would be a horrifying 7 billion tons per 1 little cube. Don't even think about holding it in your hand. That thing would warp the fabric of reality around it. It's kind of like trying to imagine Mount Everest being squeezed into a tiny ball. Hard to even imagine. So, even though they're so heavy, these stars are surprisingly small, only about 6 miles in radius. That's like a city size, and it would still weigh more than our sun. But if that's not enough horror for you, the neutron star we're talking about wasn't your regular one. It was a magnetar. Now, magnetar is a rare type of neutron star. When a neutron star is born, there's only a 10% chance that it will become one of those guys. It can happen if, while the star is collapsing, its magnetic field grows wildly stronger. The spin is rapid, the insides are going wild, and boom, we've got a magnetic field 1 trillion times stronger than Earth's. More than that, these are among the most extreme magnetic fields in the entire universe. They can literally rip atoms apart. Which is exactly what they do. They just rip everything apart. So they end up being surrounded by a super hot, electrically charged soup of particles called plasma. The magnetic field is going wacky, twisting, and bending the plasma as it sees fit. And this all just ends up as an ultra-hot party. Everyone is constantly colliding, scattering, and being absorbed. Not the best place for a hangout. Now, back to our main character. The magnetar in our story also had a plasma soup and a terrifying invisible field surrounding it. And this is exactly where that mysterious signal came from. A signal was born somewhere in that place, at a distance of 6,200 miles away from the magnetar. Sounds like a lot, but that's a distance shorter than a flight from New York to Singapore. But this is very weird, because how can a radio burst even escape a place like that? Now, usually they'd end up being blocked or absorbed. Most often, radio waves end up hanging out there like in a cage. This one, however, managed to break free somehow, which means that something happened that punched through the plasma. Energy somehow goes goofy, twists and reshapes itself in such ways that it starts releasing radio waves. Now, in any case, this means that FRBs most likely come from neutron stars and various types, like magnetars or pulsars. Recently, astronomers made a new amazing telescope called CHIME, the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, a mouthful. This one detects FRBs literally every day. FRBs are full of surprises in general. In the same year, we discovered an FRB with periodic peaks lasting over 3 seconds, much longer than typical bursts. This one could also come from a neutron star. But if it was just neutron stars, we wouldn't probably receive them all that often. It looks like these signals are very diverse and might actually be born from all sorts of places, like near black holes. So there are some other theories about their origin. For example, they could come from 2 stars smashing into each other. What could be more epic than that? A collision of 2 stars would release unimaginable energy, and they destroy each other completely. Uh-oh. Some astronomers think they could explain FRBs, but of course, that's not something that happens often at all. Also, FRBs sometimes repeat. Most of them flash once and disappear, but sometimes they almost flicker like the one we discussed. Some of them even follow very precise patterns. For example, one well-known repeater follows a 16-day cycle. It goes crazy for about 4 days and then goes quiet for 12 days before starting again. This one is hard to explain even with neutron stars. There has to be some unique astrophysical mechanism at play. Maybe something that orbits something else. But anyway, a star's collision would only explain signals that flash once and never again. Another possibility is the blitzar. It's a goofy name for a very dramatic idea. A neutron star turning into a black hole. Once again, an event like that unleashes a huge burst of radio waves. But, again, an occasion like that would be incredibly rare, and the signals aren't supposed to repeat. Black holes themselves are a pretty good option, though. They're central to many FRB theories. Could these bursts come from a neutron star falling into a black hole? Or from a collapsing black hole itself? Maybe even dark matter interacting with a black hole? Hey, who knows? Let's just throw all the ideas in there. Of course, the thing that everyone's most excited about is extraterrestrial civilization. Maybe not all of these bursts, but at least some of them could be signals from our intelligent neighbors. But like we said, that's very unlikely, considering that the signals come from all over the sky and many different distances. Also, almost all of them are the same, and that would be super hard and weird from an intelligent civilization to try and reproduce. Though who knows what else we might discover in the future. Ooh, you're diving into the dark and icy waters of Antarctica. The eerie blue darkness is enveloping you, reminiscent of the vast expanse of open space. In these depths, where you least expect to encounter any living creature, you suddenly hear a loud, strange sound. A quacking noise, as if a giant duck was hidden in the deep. In 1960, researchers first recorded this sound and named it bioduck. Clever. For decades, they tried to unravel the mystery of its source. Was it a giant kraken? An extraterrestrial spaceship that had crashed into the ocean? A mysterious sea monster? Or perhaps an enormous duck? There were many versions, one more bizarre than the other. Oceanographers detected similar sounds in other locations as well. Off the western coast of Australia and near New Zealand, they recorded similar but higher-pitched signals, which they named bio-goose. It seems the creepy atmosphere of the story disappears with such names. Anyways, these sounds were not isolated incidents. They happened multiple times with consistent intervals. Many initially thought the source must be mechanical, given the regularity of the sounds. However, studying the oceans in the latter half of the 20th century was challenging because of limited technologies. Nevertheless, scientists persisted in collecting data on bioduck and biogoose, driven by their insatiable curiosity. As more data accumulated, so did the theories. But scientists eventually uncovered the mystery. Bioduck turned out to be a form of communication with a biological origin. When researchers analyzed the repeating sounds, they noticed that the signals never overlapped. One source would speak while the others remained silent, suggesting a form of communication. The question remained, which ocean creature possessed such an extraordinary method of communicating through varied frequency sounds? The answer, as many have guessed, is whales. Scientists compared the bioduck sound from Antarctica with the calls of minke whales and found striking similarities. The biogoose sounds from the waters off Australia and New Zealand likely belong to other species or very young minke whales. This discovery, however, only deepened the mystery. What purpose did these sounds serve? Were the whales discussing their dinner plans, laughing at the humans recording their voices, or perhaps sharing deep insights about the universe? The possibilities were endless, but the most astonishing revelation was that humans might one day learn to communicate with these magnificent creatures. Communicating with whales is no longer a far-fetched idea. Scientists from the University of California have already established contact with a humpback whale named Twain. In a groundbreaking experiment, researchers conducted a 20-minute conversation with the marine mammal. Here's how they did it. The specialists went on a marine expedition to the coast of Alaska, where they recorded the sounds of a group of humpback whales. Then they played these sounds through speakers, sending the signals back into the ocean. The recorded sounds resembled a greeting, like, "Hey, what's up?" but in the whale language. These greetings are used by whales to call each other or indicate their location. Now, soon after sending the signals, the researchers received a response. Twain approached the boat, circled it, and replied with a "hey" of its own. This marked the beginning of the first ever human-whale conversation. For 20 minutes, the scientists sent 36 signals to Twain, and each time the whale responded. Moreover, it waited for time intervals before answering. That is, the team received a response from the whale, waited 10 seconds, and turned on the sound again. Researchers then waited 10 seconds and answered. It seems that Twain was a very delicate interlocutor. Maybe it was a gentleman in the whale world, who knows? Or maybe it was simply intrigued by the unusual interaction. The signals used in this communication belonged to a group of whales that included Twain. It's likely that the researchers had recorded Twain's own sounds and used them to communicate with it. In a sense, Twain was conversing with itself. Now let's continue our journey and venture into the deepest oceanic trench on Earth, the Mariana Trench. A quick reminder, the Mariana Trench is a colossal chasm in the ocean floor, stretching over 1,500 miles south of Japan and reaching a depth of nearly 36,000 feet at its deepest point. To put that into perspective, the height of the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, is like 1/10 of the Mariana Trench's depth. Now imagine this. In this deep, dark abyss, scientists recorded a strange sound. Unlike bioduct, this sound resembled something from a science fiction movie, a low rumble, followed by a metallic ping, reminiscent of the sounds made by spaceships in sci-fi movies. Researchers named this mysterious phenomenon biotwang noises. Scientists first detected this strange sound in 2014 during an acoustic survey of the Mariana Trench, and they quickly identified its source: whales, specifically Bride's whales. Using artificial intelligence, researchers analyzed around 200,000 hours of audio recordings from the ocean and found matches with a group of Bride's whales. Like other animals, these whales use sounds as a form of communication. Now, did you know what else was found at the bottom of the Mariana Trench? A plastic bottle. It's unlikely it was done by a kraken or a whale or some type of monster. Everything is simpler here. The bottle ended up there because of a human. But that's a topic for another video. Okay, let's deal with one more sound. No whales this time, just a mysterious sound in the loneliest place on Earth. This place is called Point Nemo, and that's why it's so lonely. Located in the South Pacific Ocean, Point Nemo is the most remote spot from any land. The nearest island is 1,450 nautical miles away. It's about the same long distance from land in all other directions. Moreover, here, there's almost no marine life, since few water currents reach this spot, and therefore few nutrients are supplied. In a sense, it's a water desert. And so, in 1997, oceanographers recorded a very strange and frightening sound coming from the depths in the area of Point Nemo. It was something gigantic and scary. People called it the bloop. As soon as journalists found out about this phenomenon, people around the world began to invent the most fantastic versions. The most popular of them was that the sound's source was a giant sea monster, kraken, or some other creature. The hype around the bloop didn't last very long. Scientists managed to find out the nature of the mysterious noise. It turned out it belonged to an iceberg. When they crack and collapse, they create powerful ultra-low frequency sounds that can be heard from a very long distance. To confirm this version, scientists recorded the sounds of other icebergs and heard something similar to the bloop. Oh, by the way, Point Nemo is so lonely that space agencies drop out-of-service satellites here. Space objects just fall in the water. There's a 99% chance that no animal or human will be harmed by falling debris in this lonely place. That's why many people call it the satellite cemetery. But what if, someday, a spaceship from another planet falls here? What if it has already fallen in Point Nemo and sometimes emits an emergency signal that breaks through the ocean? Ooh. All the mysteries you have heard have already been solved. How about we end this video with a mystery that still baffles scientists? Meet upsweep. One of the most mysterious sounds ever recorded in the ocean. It's not just noise, it's a series of short ascending tones repeated at intervals of several seconds. It was first discovered in 1991 using hydrophones installed in the Pacific Ocean. At first, oceanographers suggested that upsweep could be associated with volcanic activity or underwater earthquakes. But the seasonal nature of the sound and its intensity change depending on the time of year, which rules out these versions. People began to consider hypotheses related to the biological life of the ocean. They studied the migration routes of marine animals and their behavior at different times of the year. However, despite all efforts, the sound source has not been identified. Some studies suggest that upsweep may be associated with certain species of fish or other marine animals that make sounds for communication or navigation, but no one has been able to prove it. In 2017, a strange object was spotted in our solar system. It had the shape of a long tube, similar to a pancake. No known asteroid or comet we've seen looks like that. Its exterior was also peculiar. It was at least 10 times more reflective than the average stuff that flies through space, with some saying it had a surface similar to polished metal. When it went past the sun and left our reach, it accelerated faster than what our gravity could account for. At first glance, it was like this thing had a rocket strapped to its back. This unusual visitor even got a special name, Oumuamua. It comes from Hawaiian and translates to scout or visitor from a faraway land. And because of its characteristics, scientists soon began to wonder if this was at last a visit from otherworldly creatures. Before they went full-on with the science fiction suppositions, astronomers gathered the information they were sure about, starting with the fact that Oumuamua must have come from another solar system. There must have been some unfortunate event in its home system that led to its ejection. What they didn't know was that this was a comet or asteroid. They're both celestial objects orbiting a sun, but they have distinct compositions and behaviors. Comets are composed primarily of ice, dust, and rocky material, often referred to as dirty snowballs. When a comet approaches the sun, the heat causes the ice to vaporize, releasing gas and dust particles into space. This creates a bright glowing tail that can extend for millions of miles. Comets generally have elliptical orbits, often taking them from the distant reaches of our solar system closer to the sun. Asteroids, however, are mostly made of rock and metal. In our neighborhood, they are remnants of the early formation of the solar system and are typically found in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Unlike comets, asteroids do not develop tails when they approach the sun, as they have no ice. Their orbits generally follow more circular paths compared to comets. By all accounts, Oumuamua should be a comet, because it seems to come from a different location in the universe. Yet, it doesn't exhibit the typical signs of cometary activity. Oumuamua lacks a tail and does not spew out gas as it passes by, not like me. Even though it behaves like a comet, it looks more like an asteroid. Now, another big question is how scientists even managed to spot Oumuamua in the first place. Considering the vastness of space and time in the galaxy, it's remarkable. Stars have lifetimes spanning millions or billions of years, and the formation of a solar system takes hundreds of millions of years. Even the fastest objects take tens of thousands of years to travel from one star to another. In contrast, humans have only been observing the skies with telescopes for around 400 years, a tiny fraction of cosmic time. And it's only in recent decades, even years, that we've had the technology to detect and track fast-moving, dim objects. Either rocks like these are abundant, or we've been incredibly lucky with our detections, or it's simply wanted to be seen. Now, another question that was asked was where such objects could come from. It's highly unlikely that Oumuamua came from a mature, stable solar system. That's because such systems don't eject enough material to fill up the galaxy. Occasionally, a random rock might get flung out, but it can rarely travel so far. Young systems, however, act differently. In these chaotic environments, collisions, mergers, and migrations are happening everywhere. Plenty of tiny rocks roam around, perfect candidates for ejection. The solar system that kicked Oumuamua out must have had a planet similar to Jupiter. Its massive size and gravity could influence other objects in the system, causing potential ejections. But not all solar systems develop Jupiter-sized planets. Often massive planets end up close to their stars, becoming hotter versions of Jupiter. These planets, snugly orbiting a sun, are less likely to eject debris. Now, Neptune-like planets may play a role too. While not as massive as Jupiter, They tend to call the outer regions of solar systems their home. Our solar system has the Kuiper Belt, a reservoir of comets in its outer reaches. During a solar system's early stages, interactions between Neptune-like planets and debris are common. Finding Neptune-like planets in other systems has been challenging, though. Our methods for detecting exoplanets work better for massive objects close to their stars, making it difficult to spot Neptune counterparts farther out. Oumuamua was also linked to a peculiar theory about how life came to be in the universe – panspermia. Now that's a hypothesis that suggests that life exists throughout the universe and can be distributed between planets by various means, such as asteroids, comets, or even spacecraft. It says that life must have originated in one location in the universe and then spread to other celestial bodies. Fans of the panspermia theory have suggested that such interstellar objects could potentially carry tiny microbes, those building blocks of life between star systems. If such objects were to impact a planet or a moon, they could transfer these materials and seed the celestial body with life. For now, there is no evidence to support the theory that this comet in particular has transported life between star systems. After years of research, the overall consensus became that Oumuamua was indeed a comet. The reason why it moves so strangely is because it might have frozen hydrogen on its surface that reacts when touched by sunlight. The closer it got to our sun, the faster it became, releasing that hydrogen and also changing its path to our solar system. Its color also supports this theory. It's red, which might mean it's been hit by cosmic rays for a long time. The longer it was touched by those rays, the more hydrogen it gathered in the process. But since they can't be completely sure, astronomers have a plan to follow this visitor. One idea is to send a mission to check it out. It's already far away from us, but it may not be too late just yet. We may be able to send a probe fast enough to catch up with the comet. The plan was named Project Lyra and aims to use the Earth's orbit and that of Jupiter to bounce out a probe far enough to reach Oumuamua. If it works, it will be the fastest space device we've sent out in the universe. One potential trajectory of the space probe involves the gravitational pull of our planet and that of Jupiter as a lasso effect, but not Ted Lasso. The probe will leave our planet and re-enter Earth's orbit before sending it to meet with Jupiter's pull. It will be sent back near our planet a second time, where it will be ejected with enough force to reach the comet. Project Lyra also aims to follow a second faraway visitor named Borisov. This one was discovered by an amateur astronomer and now bears his name. What's interesting about it is that it's, well, spotless. Similar to our experience with Oumuamua, we haven't seen anything like Borisov before either. Studies of the light coming from its cloud of dust and gas show it's very clean compared to other space objects. After it was first noticed in August 2019, astronomers studied its path through our solar system and concluded it came from another star too. But Borisov gave us more time to study it because we spotted it earlier in its journey through our neighborhood. Researchers used advanced telescopes to look at the dust coming off Borisov. They found it's throwing off over 400 pounds of dust every second. They also found Borisov has more carbon monoxide than comets from our solar system usually do. But the amount isn't the same everywhere on the comet. This tells us the space object probably started forming near its home star before moving away, maybe because of larger planets in its system. The light from Borisov is way more polarized than light from other comets we've seen, and its cloud is super smooth. This tells us Borisov has never interacted with another star.